All right, I know, something different again. What's wrong with Scott's workbench? What's this little partition all about? What, is he going into artwork or something? Well, I don't do that. Not necessarily, although the artistic side of working with machines, obviously. But I wanted to create a little bit of suspense in revealing a machine that was just completed. Came from a gentleman that lives in Austin, Texas. His name is Ron. And he got it to me before the first of the year and wanted to give it to his wife. He had the idea originally of giving it to his wife as a Christmas present. And just with the workload and the number of machines that were ahead of his, that just was not going to happen. So we took a different track and we thought along the lines of trying to give it to his wife for Valentine's Day. That's obviously already passed, but it's close enough, I think, that we can still sneak that in as a belated Valentine's gift for his wife down in Austin, Texas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the progression of kind of how the machine was received and then the different steps leading up to ultimately what you'll see behind this partition. So I'm going to zoom in and bear with me as I kind of scroll through the pictures. I don't have a real convenient way to do it. Originally I was thinking of trying to hold them up, and I did kind of a test run of that and it was awkward as could be. So I'm going to try to tag them up on this board, zoom in, and we'll kind of go that route. Hopefully it works out okay. So this machine again came to me in a rather rough state. It's not the worst I've seen. Kind of zoom in a little bit here. There we go. I think that's fairly good. It's not going to give you a perfect picture of the machine, but the caramelization on the machine was very heavy. The decaling was hit and miss. The faceplate, the balance wheel, as you'll see in some other shots, was really in a mess. And mechanically, it had a number of challenges. So as we go through the different shots, I'm not going to probably share a huge narrative on them, but simply to say that it needed help. So let me go ahead and rotate the screen forward so I can kind of get a shot and hopefully keep these in view as much as possible. So there's a frontal shot of the machine. The next shot you're going to see is a shot of the needle plate area. And the needle plate area, you can really get, I think, even a better picture of kind of how that paint and decaling looked. Come on. There we go. You can see here we've got the cracking in the paint. It's just in a real rough condition. And when it comes to the paint quality, it was just apparent, and you can see the decaling as well. It just wasn't going to be something that I could hand restore. You might remember that machine that I showed at the post office that we did an aesthetic restoration on. Customer didn't care about the mechanical aspect of it, just wanted it as a display piece. There was no way that this was going to be able to be hand done. It was just the damage was just too extensive. So the next shot's going to show you another shot, larger, wider shot of the bed area. Yeah, I'll kind of straighten it out there. Again, this shading area here you can see in the picture, the paint is just degraded all the way down past the clear coat. In some spots it was all the way down to the metal. And so again, the option to repaint it was really a pretty big stretch. Now we're going to look at the back of the machine. And as we look at the back of the machine, you're going to see again we've got some major decaling challenges, particularly on the Singer emblem. Also on top of here, just forward of the balance wheel, on top of the balance wheel itself, and then also the Singer Sewing Machine Company logo on top as well. Let me zoom in a little bit more. It looks like we're fairly close, and hopefully you'll be able to see that. Okay, but let's see if we can get it even a little closer. There we go. Okay. And thanks again for your patience. I'm sure there's other ways that I could have done this, but this is the easiest and fastest way just to give you at least some visual of the challenges with this machine. Alright, so here's another one, a little closer up. You can see in this area here, again, just the fading, the quality of the paint, very, very rough. Also, you can't see it in the picture, but there also were some wiring issues coming off of the light, and additional wiring issues as well with the cord. I can just show you a quick glimpse of that, where electrical tape had become a best friend of this machine, and it really just simply wasn't safe. But that is, you know, a fairly easy thing to repair, so that wasn't the biggest concern. So here we've got a close look at the balance wheel, which interestingly I discovered as the restorative process took form that this was not the correct balance wheel for the machine. The inner circumference that the bobbin winder runs on was too small, so there was no way that the bobbin winder, regardless of how extremely it was adjusted, could ever make contact with that balance wheel. So Ron and his wife, or whoever had this machine prior to them, was never ever able to wind a bobbin on this machine because the balance wheel was the wrong one. This was the original one that was sent. If you can see that in the shot, and then you can compare it to the one that's on the machine in the photo, which is the one that we ended up ultimately leaving with the machine and putting it on the machine as a solution so that bobbin winding was a possibility. The next shot you're going to see again is of the balance wheel, but from the side, and it gives you a little bit of an idea of what a rough shape. This is the original balance wheel that you're going to see in the photo. Gives you a little bit of an idea of how rough that balance wheel in fact was. You can see here the rust. There's rust on the outer edges of it as well, rust on the inner edges. You can also see on the bottom of the machine, well, you can't in this shot, I would have to raise it up a little bit, but on the bottom of this shot as well, let's see if I can raise it up in the shot. Yeah, you can see it now. There's even rust on the bottom of the backside of the pillar as well. So the machine was probably stored outdoors somewhere. So the point of all these pictures is it became apparent that the machine was going to need more than just a light facelift. It was going to need extreme measures, particularly with the idea of this being a gift, a special gift that Ron wanted to give his wife. So the process then started of taking all of the paint using a intense heat gun, about 1100 degrees, removing all the paint, all the decaling off of this machine, taking it all the way down, as you'll see in some of the shots coming up, all the way down to bare metal. This is a tedious process. To describe it as time consuming is probably a major understatement. I lost count of how many hours it took because you've got to be careful using that type of heat and using a scraping tool like this, that you don't gouge the metal, that you don't soften or weaken the metal. This is cast metal, but at the same time, when you're talking 1100 degrees, you got to be careful. So it's a very careful, very calculated process. And you can see over here, I believe, let me see if I think you can see it in the shot. But even the process of working those decals off, let's see, where is it? Yeah, over here. Working the decals off becomes a very tedious process because you're talking about several layers of paint clear coat plus the decaling. So you can see we're right near the pillar and right near the Singer emblem. And again, working around this emblem as well, which is a very thin gauge brass type material, requires a lot of care. Down here you can see where the paint has already been taken off. We're pretty much down the bare metal there, and then we're working around the stitch length control. We're working around the emblem and just trying to be very careful with extreme heat like that. After all is said and done, if you've never seen a sewing machine in its birthday suit, which is the equivalent of pretty much what you have coming off of the assembly line at the Singer Sewing Machine Company back in the day, this is pretty much what it looked like. You're down the bare metal, you've got the emblem attached, you've got the mechanics attached, but there's no paint, there's no decaling, there's nothing. And that's pretty much where the machine needed to be taken. Here shows you kind of a back shot. The same thing again, the machine, as I'll refer to it, in its birthday suit. Down the bare bones, down the bare metal. And one last shot, after all the final paint and everything has been removed, then becomes the equally tedious task of beginning to mask off areas that you don't want any of that paint or some of that special undercoating to be hitting, because it can affect the mechanics of the machine. Okay, so you get the idea. To say the least, this was a handful. I'm going to try to bring myself back into the shot here. This was a handful. Other machines in the past have allowed us to do partial restorations. They've allowed us the opportunity. Yeah, we'll go right about there, I think. They've allowed us the opportunity to do some hand detailing on it, as well as we had done with that machine that I showed you in that video at the post office. This machine was too far gone for that, and again, just because of the intent of giving it as a special gift, doing it that way just wouldn't have brought it back to its former glory. So enough gabbing. You're saying, all right, Scott, all right, Scott, all right, Scott, move the partition. We want to see, what did you do? What did you do? A couple of subscribers said your machines always end up looking like they're brand new. Well, I think we actually exceeded it this time. The machine looks spectacular. Well, you be the judge. All right, here goes the partition. All of you out there in the internet can give a little proverbial drum roll. So, and that is what a Singer 66 properly restored to its glory looks like. Isn't that beautiful? The base is the original base, although when Ron sent it to me, it arrived in a box. I think he had paid somebody to pack it. The point is that the case did not survive the journey. It was in about 5 or 6 pieces. So I had to put it back together. I had to peg it together, glue it together, clamp it, and make it secure as a means of supporting the machine, and also potentially with a cover transporting the machine, giving it portability. But the decaling and everything else, coupled with a new nice coat of paint on the base, I think you'd agree, really does give this a spectacular look. And you might be shocked to know, you might say to yourself, well, what year of machine are we looking at here? How old is this machine that Ron sent you? Well, you might be surprised to know that it was born April 20th, 1915. You heard me right. 1915. You can do the math. Most people would say, yeah, right. There's no way that that machine is that old looking like that. Well, after it got done going through multiple stages and a lot of hours, there it is. So I'm hoping Ron's wife is extremely pleased. And I also want to, before I go too much further forward, we're going to do a couple of quick stitch offs. I want to throw a quick impromptu contest out there to you. It's in part because we just passed the milestone of 3,000 subscribers a couple weeks ago. We're already at like close to 3,050, I believe. And the question relates back to Lizzie's machine. So it doesn't relate to this machine, although it does parallel in some ways. What I want you to tell me is, on the Singer 99 and the Singer 99K, according to the instruction manual for maintaining the machine properly, how many oil points are there for lubricating the machine? In other words, how many places are you supposed to be lubricating that machine every probably 10 to 12 hours of sewing? You know, you could stretch it further than that, but that's my gauge. Around every 10 to 12 hours of sewing, you know, I want to be lubricating those points. So see if you can find that answer out for me. I'll give you a little bit of help. It's less than 50, but more than 20. So less than 50, but more than 20. All right, so with that little impromptu contest, I'm going to zoom in on the needle. That should get us pretty close, I think. There we go. All right, I'm going to flip my little screen around, and hopefully I remember to plug the machine in. Let's see. Good, good, good. All right. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do a couple of confirmation stitch offs, not to test the strength of the machine per se, but just to give an opportunity to see the stitch quality. So the first stitch off that we're going to do is going to be with this U.S. Army grade canvas. Nothing thin about this stuff at all. It's the thick of thick. It's extremely heavy grade and hard to get through. We see one layer right here. I'm going to go ahead and fold it. We're up to 2 layers. And we're only going to do 3 layers. I think that should be a fairly easy task for this machine. And when you look from the side, we're talking about U.S. Army grade canvas. There's nothing lightweight about this at all. I said it before, some of the sewing that I do on my fully restored vintage machines would send contemporary machines crying, and you'd be hearing plastic parts breaking all over the place if you were to try to do this on those machines. So, all right, enough gab. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get my foot on this presser foot. I did get different shoes, and we'll see if they help. I hope they help. Here we go. Well, I would love to say, I would love to say that that was a challenge. But you heard the machine. It didn't even seem to roar to life. It was just almost like it was sleepy and saying, okay, all right, well, yeah, I see there's material there. What is that, like something like light cotton or something like that? And look at the quality of that stitch. I mean, for real? Can you see that in the camera? God, I hope you can. The spacing, the formation, the quality of that stitch is just beyond imagination. That's our top stitch. And you know what? I've said it a million times. If you can get a lock-in stitch like this, one of that quality, I'll try to turn it a couple of different angles for you. That is the cream of the crop when it comes to a properly restored vintage sewing machine. All right, so that's our 3 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. Let's do some denim now. I honestly don't know what kind of sewing Ron's wife is going to be doing, but typically when you own a sewing machine, at one time or another you're going to have to do some alterations, you're going to have to do some repairs. Denim is a very common material that you're going to be sewing on. Not probably even more so than canvas, but canvas really demonstrates that piercing threshold that demonstrates the strength of the machine. So this is our 2 layers of heavy grade denim. Again, not trying to max the machine out in any way, just having a little bit of fun so you can see what this machine is capable of doing with no effort whatsoever. All right, so 2 layers of denim, and here we go. I barely have my foot on that foot control. Boy, this machine has some power to it. It really does. It's not a huge motor, but after I went through the motor and I did some restorative steps on it, that 0.54 amps that maxes at about 0.6 amps really does a spectacular job. It truly, truly does. Let me just go ahead and clip this thread on the back as well. And I'd like to show you this one as well. Didn't do anything fancy, just kind of made a little loop around just to show you that it is an easy machine to control. It's easy to harness that power. And you be the judge. I'm going to bring this light down even a little bit further. You be the judge as to the quality of that stitch. I mean, that is just absolutely spot on. The spacing, the formation, everything about the stitch is just drop dead gorgeous. And you know what I'm going to do, and I've done this before, and I've gotten feedback from subscribers that it's helpful, because in the camera shots when you're on video, it's sometimes hard to tell, you know, how good of a job that I do in showing you the evidence as far as what the machine has done with stitch output. Let's zoom in and take a closer look. All right, let's spin this around so I can see where I'm looking. Okay, so let's start on the denim side first. I'm going to get nice and close. Come on a little bit. I think I'm blurring a little bit. Light hits it just in the right way. It's sometimes a little bit hard to see that stitch output, but that's just a gorgeous stitch. We move over to the canvas. Once again, look at that. That's what it's all about right there. When you can look at stitch quality like that on these 2 pieces. Come out a little bit, it's actually easier to see. I think my battery may be getting a little bit low. Stitch quality like that, that speaks volumes of how that machine has been restored. So this has been one of those projects. It's been one of those projects that you feel privileged to have had a chance to work on a machine like this, a machine that dates back to 1915, and then to be able to end up with a product like this as a special gift for a husband to give to his wife. And I'm hoping that Ron's wife falls in love with this machine. There's been a lot of care put into it. A machine that's been restored like this, I always caution recipients of it, don't try scrubbing on it with polish for at least 6 months, even though we go through a drying process of drying that enamel, that clear coat and everything. There's a hardening process that takes much longer than that before you can apply waxes and other polishing agents to it. So let that be for the record. Ron, don't let your wife polish this machine for at least 6 months, but as bright and as beautiful of a luster as it has, I don't think she will. So again, remember that contest. if you want to throw your hat into the mix of things, you can either post your answers with this video on YouTube, or I'll also post this video on Facebook, and you can post your answer there. Again, the question is, how many oiling points, excluding the motor, how many oiling points does the Singer 99 and the Singer 99K have? Like the machine that I mailed to Lizzie as a gift for winning the contest when we passed 3,000 subscribers. So again, the only hint I'll give you is it's less than 50 and it's more than 20. So have fun with that. And again, I hope Ron's wife loves this machine. It's spectacular. So thanks for being a subscriber, and stay tuned for more contests.